then this series of cross braces that ride up within the core walls. And there are beams that frame in from the side, so that as wind hits the building, the load hits the outside wall and gets channeled through the floor and is able to be dissipated in the core with this cross bracing, moving the load down into the foundation. When we first did a wind tunnel study, we'll talk about that in a second, our wind tunnel study, we found that the building was too much of a rabbit. This thing was moving all over the place where people would never be able to even occupy a floor. Their desk would be sort of shuttling around. We had to find a way to slow it down. And money is always a concern. We weren't going to put a 2-mass damper in there. Those were extremely expensive to do. So what was done was down at the 3rd level. This truss goes all the way down into the foundation. At the 3rd level, we took the cross bracing out. And instead of having cross bracing, we put rigid connections here. So at that level, the building can do a little bit of bending. It's loosened. It's like taking somebody out on the dance floor. If you're weak in the ankles, right, kind of move around. So what happened here, instead of the building being fixed at the bottom and vibrating all over the place, all of a sudden it started to do this. Multimodal, moving back and forth to stay and keep itself within agreeable and adjustable accelerations to keep the thing in place. So again, it was a superposition of going to multimode or harmonics, I guess. We're going to right? They have the building to come in line. And it's not that we changed any of the energy that's coming at it, we just changed the characteristic of how we were going to react to the energy that was being imparted to it. The last thing I have to do, I was listening to the radio the other day, and they told me, and I know a little bit about electronics, but they told me they now have an atom that works as a transistor. Talking about nanotechnology? No?
I don't know. Sounds impressive.
Can you?
Sounds, I have to read the fine print.
All right, check that. It was on NPR 2 days ago. So I was getting ready to come here and I'm thinking, what do I say about atoms in terms of the world of architecture? And the only thing other than that I came up with is that more and more, and we're building a building over here on campus, nanotechnology is, I think, going to give us a whole new array of tools to put on buildings. In particular, one I'm watching is that now we're talking about nanotechnology with actually clean glass, where you'll have these microbes or whatever that are moving up and down the glass on a continued basis to keep it completely clean, and therefore we don't have to have window washing rigs on things. I mean, that sounds wonderful to me. When people do my clothes and pick things up, isn't great. But you're looking at, we got to get them out, or you have to probably get them run away at the other side of campus.
I think they want to disappear in about 3 or 4 minutes, and then somebody else comes in about 10 minutes.
Well, one ask questions in terms of where the profession is going. We're seeing much more in the way of collaboration. Unfortunately, the United States we have smaller projects, but if you're willing to travel to move, be it Russia or the Middle East or I think Africa is going to be coming at us very quickly. We're doing a city in Morocco right now. It's the projects are such broad in scale, and with that they involve teams of hundreds of people to design them. And I think you'll be getting into that environment. The architect kind of thing is not going to diminish, but I think you're going to see much more activity in terms of creating livable, sustainable communities that have got architecture at the heart of making those spaces where people can live. Last time I was with you, I think I told you about a city we had designed over in Saudi Arabia that was all zero, carbon energy producing thing. And the world is getting very serious about it. So I'm hoping that the shaping of buildings, as you'll see them, as you start your careers, are going to be function very much with that. And being home to ground in the world of science, at least comfortable with it, with a lifeline back to us. I come with a perpetual care guarantee, so you can call me up anytime. We'll try to get you the best of answers because you're now part of Penn. You're a fighting Quaker.
How about photovoltaics?
Photovoltaics, the problem with them right now is that the efficiency that's coming off the plate, now I'm talking about commercial side, is running at about 10%. And until we get that up to about 35% on the yield, you're not going to see them getting up. So right now, all of that stuff is unfortunately somewhat tinsel. It's not really driving things. The places you're going to see it first emerge will be sunshine over there is 98%. The problem they've got is they have no water. So keeping the plate clean from dust is a concern. Again, nanotechnology, if you could find a way to keep the plate free of dust, what would probably happen in Saudi Arabia is that they would serve all their energy needs with solar and then reserve their oil or be able to broadcast that out to a wider net. And at least that's, from what you said, that's the strategy that they've got. We're seeing delicate, small applications here. We just were involved in one that was a field in Virginia that JP Morgan Chase was looking at on the commercial side of things. And God bless New Jersey, the one nice thing about it had a tremendous incentive program where if you put a sufficient amount on your roof, the payback you got was in a very short order of time. And by putting it back into the grid, people were getting checks each month that were charging them to do this quickly and do it fast and then start to yield as a small energy producer.
You ever design with heat pumps?
Yes, I live in my house. One thing about a heat pump, is really if I take if you've grown up in a house that has air conditioning, you know one half of the heat pump. If I turn that around, and rather than producing cold air on the inside, if I let the cold air go to the outside, it produce heat on the inside. Right? Because I'm just moving heat from one environment to another. The situation with heat pumps right now is that the temperature that comes off the diffuser, off the grill, runs at about 90 degrees Fahrenheit. And you know your skin is at 98 degrees Fahrenheit. So in a heat pump environment, you always feel like you're being air conditioned. And there's something about, we gotta get beyond this, but people expect that in the wintertime, they're gonna feel dry and warm, right? The fact that the comfort level should really be between 78 degrees and 90 should be fine for them. But it has a chilling effect. It has to do with, the convection, that you're giving heat off into that air, where if you go into a house that has oil heat, you're really absorbing the calories into the skin as opposed right into the register. So there's a little bit of a perception issue. Other thing is that the compressors were really compressors that were built for the air conditioning world, and they typically had a 15-year life on them. Therefore, when you make them go into a heat pump environment, they tend to be like a 7-year life, and you have to replace the compressor. But I've lived in one. I've got 3 kids that are all grown now, and very little in the way of lost time in school. It wasn't because my wife and I wanted to health genetically, but I think the fact that the humidity in the house stayed relatively high. If you do combustion in the basement, all of the available moisture here in the wintertime is going to go up the flue. And if the house gets very dry and your sinuses don't act the same way. But a heat pump house doesn't have combustion in it, and therefore you got to be independent of air. My wife was this plant aficionado, landscape architect supreme. I live in a jungle and it does really well.